Hey, DCL Podcast fans, it's Steve. We have a lot of interviews like Bryan that we did last spring that we will be bringing out to you. And obviously, as things change with Disney Cruise Line from last spring through the summer and on into the fall, there are going to be a lot of changes as you look back and go, wait a minute, they're not doing that right now. But I think the main gist of the interviews that we have that were a little bit dated as we bring them out are still very meaningful in the experiences that like Bryan had in his family. So we want to make sure we get them out to you. So just wanted you to be aware that some of the changes that you hear from this interview and a couple more that will be coming out soon are a little bit dated as things have changed with the way Disney Cruise Line operates. So I hope you enjoyed this interview. It was fun talking to Bryan and his family always. And now, as they say, on with the show. Well, hello and welcome once again to the DCL podcast, where we're inviting you to sit back, relax, and we'll be on our way shortly. Well, welcome back to the DCL podcast, your podcast helping your family cruise a little smarter. And I'd like to welcome back to the show all the way out in Florida. How are you doing this morning, Christy?
I am well, Steve. How are you?
You are in the middle of booking 2023 summer reservations, and I'm guessing that you're actually not on hold with Disney Cruise Line this morning, huh?
The first time in like 6 days or 5 days.
Do you ever get tired of Disney music? I mean, like I think about Christmas music on the airplane, like...
I don't. Well, yeah, if I had to listen to that much Christmas music, I'd get tired of it. I don't get tired of the music. I do get tired of 3-hour holds, not knowing how long the hold's going to be, not being able to do other things, not knowing if I could go to the restroom. Like those are the complicated parts of the holds. But it worked out well because the way Disney released their schedule, we have this day off in between the gold and the silver bookings. So I can record this podcast with you.
So we can do a podcast. Well, we just did a show with the differences between the classic and the dream class ships. And I'm excited today because we're going to bring back a good guest to the show. And his family just went on their first dream class sailing. So I'd like to welcome back to the show all the way out in the beautiful state of Utah. How are you doing this morning, Bryan?
Doing well. It's May the 4th. So we all want to have the force with us today.
Yeah. You know, what's weird is like, it's May the 4th and I'm totally excited about Moon Knight and watching the last segment of Moon Knight tonight. So I'm like in my Marvel mood today. So I don't know. I guess I'm waiting for Obi-Wan to come out. I wish they would have had that out today.
They should tie that. You'd think Disney would do something like that, but apparently not.
No, I know. Well, maybe, I'm sure they're listening to our podcast. I'll do it next time for May the 4th. Well, you guys just got off your first sailing of one of the larger ships. I'm going to be excited to talk about that. But before we jump into that, Bryan, why don't you give us an overview of which cruise you went on and remind everybody who all went with you, the size of your family?
Yeah, so this was a kind of an unexpected bonus cruise we got. If you recall, we were on the Wonder, the first sailing of the Wonder back in October, and they shortened the sailing and gave us some discount for a future sailing as a result. And we were able to use that and went on a 3-night on the Dream for my kids at the end of my kids' spring break. So we were super excited. We've now done the ships. We're working on our Grand Slam, and we've done them in order they were constructed. So we did the Magic and the Wonder, now the Dream, and we're booked on the Fantasy already. So it was me and my 4 kids, me and my wife and my 4 kids, just our immediate family on this sailing.
That, though, is pretty cool. That's like a purist type. I'm going to sail the ships in the order they've come out. So we just need to get you booked on the Wish now.
Yes, we do need to figure that out.
Well, you guys live in Utah, so kind of West Coast family like us, traveling down to Walt Disney World or down to Orlando to get on the Dream out of Port Canaveral. What was your guys' plans beforehand? Did you guys stay in the port or did you guys stay near Walt Disney World?
Yeah, so we spent a night right by the airport when we first flew in because that was easy. But then we transferred over and spent 2 nights at the Walt Disney World Swan and Dolphin Resort, specifically the Swan side. We had got a chance, my wife and I, to experience that when we were at Marathon Weekend and really liked the area, wanted our kids to have a chance. And the thing I like about the Swan and Dolphin is that they are Marriott affiliated properties. So you can use your points and perks and things like that there, but they're also kind of in the Disney bubble. So they've got the Disney transport and really close to the boardwalk. And so and they have a nice pool. We thought we'd come and do a resort stay for 2 nights before. And we had a really cool experience with that. We got there and as we're checking in, one of the front desk rep asks me to step away from the other guests so she can whisper, "Hey, we've upgraded you to the presidential suite." I didn't want everyone else to hear because we can't do that for everybody. And I was like, "What? What's the presidential suite?"
You don't know what the presidential suite is?
Well, I knew what the presidential suite, I had an idea, but I was like, is that just like, do they have a bunch of them and that's just the fancy name for one of the room types they have, or is that really like what I imagined it to be, which is what it ended up, I imagined it to be, which was really, really cool. So we got to walk in there and they have a grand piano as you walk in. There was a whole parlor area with a dining room and a living room. And then we had 2 queen bedroom for my kids and then a master king suite for my wife and I. And it was a really, really, really unique, once in a lifetime opportunity. I don't normally stay in rooms like that, but we had a fun little pixie dust and magic to kick off our vacation.
And it also had you said you had a grand piano in it. And spoiler alert, I got to see your daughter, a picture of her playing the grand piano there. How magical is that?
It was fun. My kids all play the piano, and my oldest especially had fun playing. The problem is they didn't have any music with them, but she was playing tunes from Encanto and Journey and stuff like that. It was kind of fun.
Have they ever played on the ship?
No, I don't think they let you play the piano on the ship, to my knowledge.
So, apparently they don't, because remember my friend's older son played the piano, and then the one night they got kind of yelled at.
Oh, that's right. But so our friends from England, the Towlers, I think their son played the piano in a talent show contest. Or maybe I'm totally out to lunch on that. So maybe they'll let you do it for that. But
well, maybe with permission.
With permission with the talent show. Anyways, okay. Well, I digress. All right. So just a magical upgrade. Did you see your kids at all in the suite? I mean, was it that big that you didn't even notice that they were there?
It was a pretty decent walk from our bedroom down to where the kids were, but it was nice that we all had our space and we ended up splurging and doing room service, and they had nice balconies for us to go out and watch fireworks and stuff like that. So that was really cool.
If people want to book the Swan and Dolphin, Christy, can they just go straight through Marriott, or how does that work?
Yes, they can go through Marriott. They can book it through Walt Disney World actually as well. And then they can use their travel agent and they can do it for them too.
So let's get you on the ship, Bryan. You guys head out to Port Canaveral. How did you guys get out to Port Canaveral this time?
Yeah, so this go around, we arranged for a private car service to take us around to stuff. Car rentals have gotten expensive. I think it would have been a little easier maybe to have rented a car with the different transfers we did, but we just used a transfer service and got us where we needed to go.
Perfect. And what was it like getting out to the port and seeing the Disney dream and how much bigger she is? I mean, did you notice it, I guess, compared to the Magic and the Wonder?
I mean, I think there's always that moment where, of course, I'm trying to take pictures out of the window of the ship the second you see it. It did look bigger to me. I think maybe we were prepped for it. So it wasn't like, oh, it's so much bigger. Like, I still think the Magic and Wonder are big ships when you walk up to them on the pier. But you could tell it was bigger, and we were just super excited to be getting on board. The one thing I don't like about cruising, because we still had it there, you see the ship, you're all excited, but I still have to go through that darn COVID test. And even though it's antigen test now and less likely for you to have a unexpected positive, it's still that little bit of stress. So I think we got really excited after that was done and we were walking across to actually get in the terminal. We paused for a photo outside the Disney Cruise Line terminal. It's our first time in a Disney Cruise Line terminal because we've sailed out of other ports. That was the moment that we were like, oh, this is so exciting and cool and fun.
And that terminal is amazing compared to everywhere else, isn't it?
I really like the terminal. Yeah, it's really fun. Mm-hmm. They have the model of the Magic inside that you can look at, and there's a little augmented reality game you can play with the app, and you can get your own little like Disney passport thing that your phone will take a picture of in the app, and then you can save it to your photos, and your kids have a little customized Disney passport looking thing that we did with one of my kids. So it is a fun terminal. That being said, some of the other ports I think are funner to sail away from. Port Canaveral was not a very good sail away. Like San Diego has it beat, Miami has it beat, but the terminal is definitely impressive in Port Canaveral.
And that first night is a little rough at sea oftentimes. So at least usually my memory of it is a little bit more motiony to me.
Yeah, you have to pass through I think it's called the Florida Straits. So it's just a channel of water that is running between the Bahamas and the state of Florida. And so sometimes that can be a little bit rough. Well, when you get that, cleared to sail, everybody breathes a sigh of relief and you head on board. What was it like walking into the lobby of the Dream the first time?
That was really cool. It is definitely a bigger lobby. I was a little sad. This is one thing we should talk about a little bit because our sailing was one of the very first where a lot of the COVID protocols were completely gone. So we didn't get the welcome show. Mickey was up there waving, but no welcome show. I think that's been talked about on the podcast. But we did get a lot of other really cool things we can talk about that have been gone that came back for our sailing. Yeah, when they announced their name, we walked in, awesome lobby. It definitely feels bigger space. And that was exciting. As they do, they asked us if we needed help getting the app going and want to direct us to that. And we were like, nope, we know what we're doing. And so we headed off to our muster station to get that photo and do that really nice, easy muster drill. Yeah. And we were on board.
I love that. I love the way they change. We've talked about it a million times, and I love the way they changed that muster drill. But what I love about it is that you don't have that hanging over your head anymore. Like, I've got to do this at 4 or something like that. So you can just really jump into enjoy your cruise. Plus, you got an opportunity to take a picture with one of Chris's favorite characters, Admiral Donald, there in the lobby of the Disney Dream.
We did. I did get multiple pictures with Admiral Donald. He is my favorite character.
Legitimately, Donald is Bryan's favorite character, and Steve is just abusive to Chris. Make sure that's all put out there.
I like Chris, and everyone can have their favorite character. Donald's been my favorite since childhood, so I can't go back on him. Even though I can recognize he has some issues with how he interacts with others, he needs to work on. All of us have some of those, and maybe that's why I identify with him.
You guys are Disney Cruise Line pros now. Been on several different cruises. What do you guys like to do once you get on board? Do you guys go looking for the food? Did you want to go explore the ship since she's a new ship? What did you guys do?
Yeah, so we actually boarded in our swimming gear all ready to get up and ride the aqueduct. That was the main thing that I had. And of course, one of the things we've got to always remember is vacations can throw you curveballs. So we went up there already and the aqueduct was down and not running. Aww. And I was like, oh, okay. Well, we weren't really super hungry at the time, but my kids were like, well, okay, we'll go get pool deck food. And so we sat by the pool for a little bit and we're playing, and I went and talked to try and get an idea. Hey, what's going on? And they said, yeah, it might be a couple hours. We're going to open a little late, the aqueduct. Spoiler alert, they didn't get the aqueduct running until the evening of our second day of a cruise.
Oh my God, it's only a 3-night cruise.
It's only a 3-night cruise. I was getting ready to go ask if I was going to get a credit because the aqueduct wasn't running when it finally got word. And my biggest complaint with all this was that they weren't very communicative. Like, I didn't have an idea. Are you missing a part and it's going to be gone the whole sailing because you don't have a part in? Is it like, are you trying to troubleshoot and don't even know what's wrong? It's just a safety. Like the cast members wouldn't really say anything other than they're working on it their hardest. So, but I did love the aqueduct. I just didn't get to ride it until later. We got word our second night right before we went to the play that it was going to be up and running. And so we went to the show Beauty and the Beast dressed to leave right there and run up on deck and ride the aqueduct, which worked perfect because there was no line. In fact, we weren't sure it was running because we didn't see anybody. I went up there, customers, you can go. And my girls and I were the ones who had done that. And we rode it like 5 times in a row with no wait. So we got our aqueduct in, but it derailed my opening day plans. But we did get to go explore the ship. We did get some food in Cabanas. Cabanas was back to full service and full variety, and that was great. Self-service, I should say. I said full service. I should say it was back to self-service, but it was full variety, carving station and everything.
That was my question. I had wondered if they brought back the carving station. So that's good because that was my husband's biggest hole from this restart. Is he's like, I want the carving station back.
It was back with all the variety. Quality of Cabanas is, it's a buffet. It is what it is. I think we felt the variety really helped feel better about it. Whether the quality of individual items was any different, hard to say, but there was a lot more variety.
I'm gonna pull a Christy here and say, for our listeners, they should know if they want to learn to explore the ship of the Disney Dream, if you don't just want to wander around aimlessly, which is probably what I would do with my family, there is a great entertainment on board the Dream and the Fantasy called the Midship Detective Agency. And that takes you all around the ship, and just playing that little game by itself kind of gets you to explore and see just about every deck on the ship, it seems like. Did you guys play that by any chance, Bryan?
We did. And I realize I'm ruining up your normal flow of going through topics on the show, but we did. We was 3-night cruise. So one of the things that was going into this, I realized one of the things I love about cruising is relaxing and not going. But with 3 nights, we had to prioritize what are we really going to do. And Midship Detective Agency was on my list. But I only got one of my kids to do it with me. My oldest on NASA afternoon had some free time, and we went and did Midship Detective Agency together. And it is a lot of fun. It does take you all over the ship. It's a little bit exhausting if you're choosing to take the stairs when you did that, which we did. But it's a really fun. It's kind of Clue meets augmented. I guess I'd use the term augmented reality, but it's like 2008 era style.
Yeah.
Some interactive screens that you work with, and there's a fun, cute story, and it's randomized. And the villain ended up being one of my favorite villains in the one we did, the Mickey and Friends one. And Yzma ended up being the villain, and I'm a huge Emperor's New Groove fan, so that was fun. But we had a lot of fun with it. One of my other kids did it on their own. My 12-year-old got bored and Edge at one point and went and ran and did it on his own and said he had a lot of fun. So really like Midship Detective Agency. Definitely a highlight on the Dream.
Yeah, I think there's several different storylines you can pick, right? So you can do.
There's even different cards because there's like the Mickey one, and then there's a Muppets one, I believe. There's the Dalmatians, perhaps. I feel like that's a thing. Mm-hmm. But maybe that's only. Yeah.
There were 3 storylines, and then I think they randomized who's the villain on each of those storylines. And so we only did one, but my son did another, and there were people doing the ship around us. And sometimes you're waiting at the picture and you can watch what's happening with theirs. And so you kind of can see, there's different segments and different people. So it's not the same every time, which is really fun.
I like the fact that we're changing up our the way we do the shows a little bit. So it's becoming a little bit more random, kind of going all over, just free flowing conversation. Let's just stick with entertainment then, Bryan. What were some of the other things you got to do? Obviously, you got to go see the show, Beauty and the Beast, which I think is a fan favorite of a lot of different people. What were some of the things that you guys did maybe as a couple and as a family?
Yeah, so we were super excited because I think this was the first 3-night sailing back where we got a different Broadway show every night. So all 3 were back: Golden Mickey's, Beauty and the Beast, and Disney's Believe. And we had not seen either any of those 3 on any of our prior sailings. I think maybe under normal circumstances, Golden Mickey's would have been on the Magic or the Wonder, but we had never seen it. We loved Beauty and the Beast. It is by far, of all the shows we've seen, the best from a production quality and just overall wow factor on Disney Cruise Line. It is so incredible. And I thought Frozen was great, and I thought the other shows we saw were great, but yeah, Beauty and the Beast was the best by far. We also really, really liked Believe. We had never seen that before. It is one of those variety shows with a loose plot, but we liked it better than Dreams, and it was really good. And the cast was just incredible. Golden Mickey's was a little disappointing for us. I think it may have been their very first or second performance of it. And so I'll give the cast a break on that. But some of it was just the plot and the video, a lot of video segments in that show. So it wasn't our favorite, but we love the evening Broadway entertainment, and we're super entertained, and we're really glad we got to go every night. First night we did splurge. They were doing popcorn in the theater again, and they were doing, I asked, well, how much is it? Well, it's $5. You get a popcorn and a drink. And of course, instantly that's what my kids wanted. So everybody got a popcorn and a drink, and it felt really cool to be back doing that in a theater and watching the shows.
On the popcorn, as Steve would say, for our listeners to know, as I would say, the popcorn bucket, let's say you do a Walt Disney World trip before you do your Disney Cruise Line trip, you can take your popcorn bucket, if you buy the refillable bucket, onto the cruise ship and get that bucket refilled as well at the popcorn stand now. So I did confirm on my last cruise that this is a thing, and it is still allowed, that we're allowed to do that. And the cast member confirmed that it's the case. So if you're going to Walt Disney World, take your popcorn bucket with you to the cruise line, fill it up, and eat that yummy popcorn all week long.
As ironic as it is, lots and lots of stuff is included on your Disney Cruise Line cruise, but not the popcorn in the theater for whatever reason.
Not the popcorn and not the drinks that are sold outside the popcorn or outside the theater. So you can bring in, though, beverages from that you've brought yourself. So that is something a person can do if they're trying to save money. But the convenience factor of just grabbing your beverage and walking in is definitely there as well. So what other entertainment did you guys do as a family?
We went up and explored the little putt-putt mini golf. Did that real quick one afternoon.
It's fun. So cute, isn't it?
It is cute. I wish we'd had a little more time to do it because we kind of I think felt rushed to go through it, but we wanted to fit it in and explore that. So we did that. My wife did a ton of crafts. She went to almost every craft session that they had and made crafts, some of the times by herself. And she usually tried to get one of the kids to go along with her. But they had a lot of fun with the crafts on board. I really was excited. They had Art of the Theme Show tour back, and I got to do that, which was really cool. I actually got to do that with Sarah from the Gluten-Free Travel. She's been on the show several times. She was on our sailing, and we met. We were on that tour together.
Gluten-free, dairy-free Walt Disney World,
yes.
Sarah. And then she has her vlog, her YouTube channel with her significant other, Brandon. What was your favorite tidbit that you learned during that tour that you can share with us?
Hard question. I think the thing I was fascinated to hear the level of detail that Disney goes to. We got to tour Remy. So every time you take this tour, they will take you to different spots based on what's available. The cast member was explaining we have to go get permission from the different departments. And depending on what's going on, it's like, I'm really excited. I get to take you into Remy. And so we got to go into Remy and he was talking about it. And one of the things that's interesting is at the very end of the show, the cartoon Remy, when the critic is there, he orders a specific bottle of wine. And apparently when the writers wrote that show, they picked a very, very expensive bottle of wine because they're putting in a cartoon. Why does it matter? Well, then they go build the restaurant on the ship and they feel like they have to have that exact bottle of wine. It's like a $25,000 bottle of wine that they have on the ship that apparently somebody has at one point in time ordered, the cast member said, or that's what he's heard. But yeah, they have it there. So they're authentic to the restaurant in Remy. And I thought that was a really random level of detail that I wouldn't have expected, but really enjoyed kind of looking in Remy. I don't know if we'd ever book Remy, but it was really fun to walk through the space and see it. And all the little hidden Remy things in there was also quite interesting to see.
That's neat. You get to see that. We've gone through Palo and they've kind of given us the backstory of Palo and how they built that, but I've not been through Remy. So that's once again, another reason to take that. Because like you said, I think the one time we did it, the cast member had a binder and there's 300 or 500 different bits of information that they know about the ship, and they just kind of pick out their favorite ones as they go through. So each one of those tours can be different.
Yeah. I also did another thing that was on the schedule in my digital navigator, because I really do miss the paper navigators. I'm pro paper navigator like Christy, but the app works fine. You just don't get a souvenir to remind you of all the fun things you did. We went and saw there was the Making of the Dream, which was another little presentation they did in the Evolution Lounge, where that one is a little bit less about the hidden details walking around the ship and more about how was the ship built and kind of trivia on that. There wasn't a whole lot that I got out of that I hadn't heard before, because I'm a bit of a DCL obsessed, but it was still kind of fun to be in the ship and hear all this. But the one thing that I hadn't heard was a story about when they were trying to figure out what color to paint the bottom hole of the ship. And I don't know if you've heard this, that they didn't want it to be black. They wanted something else. And there was an intern working for them who had a dark navy pair of pants on. And that was the color. They were like, oh, we want your pants because we want that color on the ship. And so it's honorarily named Monica Blue in honor of that intern who showed up to work in these navy slacks. That was the color they decided to paint the ships. So that was kind of an interesting tidbit I hadn't heard.
I heard that somewhere along the way too. I think it might have been on the Art of the Theme Show tour when they talked about it. But if you can't make if you can't make that tour, just that bar alone, 687, there's so much history just on the walls that it kind of tells you the story of the ship and the building of the dream too. So if anybody misses that actual tour, just by going and spending a couple minutes in the bar, you can get a lot of that history. I want to throw this out. You talk about. We learned this on our Wonder trip that recently out of New Orleans, that if you're looking for kind of a cool little souvenir from the ship, you can actually ask for a paper menus when you go to each one of the restaurants, and each one of the themed dinners and breakfasts and everything like that have it. And I've got this really cool, I know our listeners can't see it, but it says breakfast on a Disney Cruise Line, and it's a cool caricature of the Disney ship. So if you want to bring something back from your sailing, that's kind of a cool kind of souvenir that I found recently.
Yeah. And that I mentioned my wife did all the crafts. That was one of the reasons, I think, is we came home with a whole bunch of fun little paper cardboard souvenirs from the ship. So she really enjoyed that. There's lots of ways to get included souvenirs if you're creative.
So you guys are a pretty active family. How did your kids enjoy the kids clubs this time? What's the age breakdown now, Bryan? And did they spend time in the clubs?
We did. So I have a 6, 10, 12, and 14-year-old. And so the 14-year-old was able to check out both Vibe and Edge.
Could the 14-year-old jump back and forth between the two?
They didn't say that she couldn't.
Okay.
But I don't know because normally when you go into Edge, you get a little sticker on your card. And this was an interesting thing. When she went to Vibe, they usually give you a separate card for Vibe because they need to be able to tap in to open the door. But that wasn't working when we got there. And so they put a little sticker. So she had both stickers. And I think they wanted to exchange her card later, but she was like, I don't want to do that because I want to have a souvenir of my Key to the World card with my name on it and every ship name. And the Vibe card that they give you doesn't do that. But I think it becomes your room card, as I understood it, was what they told her, is that they would take her normal Key to the World and give her a special Vibe one. And she's like, I didn't want to do that. So, but she did check out Vibe a little bit, but she spent most of her time in Edge. And then my 12-year-old is in Edge, and he had a bunch of fun there, met a friend and played a bunch of Wii Sports. That was one of the fun things on the Nassau day. We went to breakfast as a family, and then I was like, okay, go do what you want, have fun. Like, he's one that doesn't like being forced to do stuff with the family sometimes. And so we just set him free. We were just staying on the ship on Nassau day, and I said, go to Edge, go do what you want, let us know what you need. And that was really fun to be able to do that on vacation, and he had a blast, a really, really fun day. The one thing I will say, though, this was a learning that I'll throw out. We have, my kids have phones. We have the Disney Cruise Line app on there so we can chat with them. You can also use iMessage. Well, I didn't think to check and make sure he had updated his Disney Cruise Line app before we got on board. And then when it launched, it wouldn't launch because it wasn't updated. And we weren't able to communicate with him on his phone because I tried to fix it. And in the process, I managed to mess up his iMessage. And then we didn't have internet on the cruise. And so his phone was kind of useless the whole cruise for the 3 days, which wasn't a big deal other than, it's nice to be able to message your kids and find out where they are. And so instead I had to go up to Edge and track him down a few times, but that was fine.
Just a reminder too, for the listeners, the first night of your cruise, each adult in your cabin can download an included 50 megabytes. Oh, Disney, get rid of the megabytes, but an included 50 megabytes of internet service. If I'm not loading social media, I can make 50 megabytes last for checking my email, checking in for work briefly, even posting some things for a 4-night cruise easily, and even longer sometimes. But you have to be smart about it. But if you had downloaded that, in theory, you would have been able to log in then on any phone, or any device, any location, and then download the Disney Cruise Line app. So if you're in a worst case scenario, even if you don't want to have internet for the most part, I would consider doing that. I would also go to guest services and say, look, this didn't get downloaded. I need to download it. Can you give me access to the internet so that I can download this app? We'll then get off the internet, right? They must have a way to do that. Well, they can just credit you megabytes. You can always ask guest services. I mean, it was a 3-night cruise. You cannot spend your whole time in guest services and to deal with all this. But if people experience this on a longer cruise, these are some of the suggestions that I would take for that issue. Great
call outs. Yeah, we chose not to do that, but I do want to hit on the guest services thing since we're going randomly on this. And you mentioned that on a 3-night cruise, how do you maximize your time? Like, we would have ideally been on a longer cruise, but just the way things worked for us, the 3-night was what we could do. So one of the things that I found super useful, because I did have to talk to guest services, I wanted to load my gift cards and my Disney Rewards redemption card onto my account. And then I wanted to adjust my gratuities at the end, and I didn't want to stand in long lines. You can book, they have the chat feature. Both of those things you can't solve over chat, but you can also set an appointment time. And what I found is you could often set an appointment time for 5 minutes or 15 minutes from the current time, and there was one available. And then you stood in the line, the short line, for people who had an appointment. And so I did that, and I never stood in line at guest services for more than 2-3 minutes. A couple of times I had to wait 5 minutes for my appointment time, but I just opened up the app. Oh, look, there's an appointment in 5-10 minutes. I'll go walk around the ship for 10 minutes, come back, no wait. That is my pro trip. Use the book an appointment feature, and you can save yourself a lot of time waiting for guest services.
Well, you just taught me something right there too. I mean, I knew you could do the appointments, but I didn't really think about it that way. And we ran into the same problem with my son two cruises ago, as far as his phone not working. And And you get so used to, as your kids get older and your kids actually have phones, you get so used to that instant communication all the time. And it makes it a little bit tough when you're on the ship. So I totally appreciate it. We had to set times. It's like, dude, here's the deal. You need to be back at the room by 5 because we're going to dinner at 5:30. So, and the one thing that we gave him was set an alarm at 5. So the alarm went off and then he knew what to do because they get busy. They're playing Wii Sports. They're eating ice cream. That's a little tip from us, I guess. So,
and iMessage usually works as of now on Disney cruises, but it doesn't always work. We have been on cruises that I believe it was the Dream, right, in the fall, where iMessage just wasn't working. So you couldn't use that communication if you wanted to either communicate with each other or back home. But it was working as of March. It appears to be working now for the most part. So just something to keep in mind. It might work for you. It might not always work.
It worked great for everybody in my family except for my son, because I was frantically right before we left cell service trying to download the app. And I typoed his iTunes password too many times, and Apple locked us out and disabled his iMessage. And I had forgotten it was because of a parental control feature I had, so he couldn't change his passcode and lock me out of his phone. And to fix the whole thing, I had to I was just rushing too fast and messed it all up. And then when I got back and had real internet, I was able to fix it all. But
we've all been there. Look, before we go into something else, just real quick, your younger kids down at the, what can I say, the Oceaneers Lab and Club, how did they enjoy it? A little bit bigger space on the Dream.
Yeah, my 6-year-old loved the kids club. He wanted to go. He was glad he didn't have to get appointments, and he spent a bunch of time, had fun there. My 10-year-old, they actually let her age up and go to Edge with her older sister. We had to sign a waiver, but they were like, yeah, on this sailing, if you want to do that, you can. She may have spent a little bit of time in the club, but she was more excited to go to the tween club with her older sister. And that was what she wanted to do. So she did that, which was really fun. But my kids all enjoyed Edge and Oceaneers Lab and Club. They had a good time, enjoyed spending time in that. So that was fun. My 10-year-old also loves to swim. And so one of the days when her siblings were all in the club, she just said, Mom, will you sit by the pool? I just want to go swim. And the capacity limits were gone on the pool. So she got to just hang out in the pool and have a lot of fun there.
So you are a family of 6, which good job. I give you all the praise, but what kind of room categories did you pick? And I guess I know because I booked it, but you should tell the listeners, what kind of room category did you pick?
Did we book? Well, our awesome travel agent helped us see that unlike on the classic ships where Ocean View is often quite a bit less money, and it can make sense to do that. On the Dream and Fantasy verandas, the difference is very minimal. And so we had adjoining veranda staterooms on deck 8 towards the aft. I think they were 5B or something like that. But we love the cabins. We have gotten spoiled and had verandas on our last 2 cruises. But we just do the adjoining cabins. It works great because it gives us double the bathrooms and it gives us adequate sleeping space. And when you book them, you do have to put your kids and one adult in one room and the other kids and the other adult in the other. But then we open the adjoining door and my wife and I sleep in one room, and then the kids are spread between the 2 rooms, and it all works great. We enjoyed our room and had no complaints about I guess the one thing I will say, and this is a complaint about the Dream class ships. I hate that when you're on by the aft part of the ship and you're using the aft stairwell to get out on the pool deck, you have to walk through cabanas. Mm-hmm. And it weirded me out, and I was sure I was doing something wrong. And you start to go in there like, wash your hands, sir. And I'm like, I'm just trying to get to my room. And if you told them, they'd let you cut through. But it was really weirded me out the first day until I realized, no, there is no way to get to the aft stairwell from the pool deck except through cabanas. So that was my only gripe about my room location. But other than that, it was great.
But if you're in the aft room and you need the included coffee first thing in the morning, you just pop up the stairs, wash your hands really quick, grab your coffee right there in cabanas, and go back to your cabin.
That is true. And I could have grabbed a pastry really easily in the morning without having to go to Cove Cafe. And it was super convenient for cabanas, but it just felt weird that I had to cut through cabanas.
The other thing people might think about too is if you're somebody that goes back and forth to your rooms a lot on a cruise, with the Dream class ships, if your room is not near a stairwell, you're doing a lot of walking, because there's a big difference as far as like if you've got a room that's like kind of in the middle in between the 2 stairwells, those are big ships. So just something to think about too. We always stay by a stairwell. I know that that's not in everybody's like their list of things to do, but we love being able to come right down the stairs and pop into our room when we want to, rather than making that long trek down the hallway. So do what's best for you. But that's just one thing that we've observed.
That's worth calling out because I was nervous. Our first cruise, we were kind of by the elevator stairwell. And then we have been on every cruise, but I remember you mentioned, Steve, you liked it, and we've done it. We've never had noise problems with it. It's just super convenient to come off the stairwell and just be able to see your room or go down like 2 doors. Like, we've done it every cruise. We love it. It's worth it.
Yeah, I think we try now just, a couple doors down from the opening. So it's not just right there at the opening where you come out and see people right away. But I think that works out good for us. All right. Anything else about the rooms, Bryan?
Nope.
Okay. Should we move into dining then? A little bit different dining spaces on the Dream and the Fantasy. They're exactly the same between the two ships. What was your dining experience? What did you think about the dining rooms?
Yeah. So we had an awesome service team. It was nice because they were back to doing magic tricks and all the sort of stuff that I know they've had to be a little bit careful of during the shutdown. I commented to Christy the other day, it did feel a little bit rushed. We're on a 3-day cruise and it felt like they were trying to give us the whole great experience a little compressed, but we did love our dining team. It was fun to see some of the tricks and fun things they did with the kids. As terms of the food goes, Animator's palette is the show is different on the Dream class than the Classic. And this was my kids' first time seeing Turtle Talk with Crush. I have seen it at one of the theme parks, but in our visits with the family, we've never done it. It was just something I think I caught years ago when it first came out. And so they really had fun. And it was interesting. My wife is the most introverted in the family. And of course, Crush immediately starts talking to her. I don't know how they figure out to do that, but we had a really fun interaction with Crush at the table. And then the food there was good. I actually quite like the Animator's Palette menu. I don't know what it is. The last 2 sailings, we've had really good food there.
Don't listen to my trip report then from my magic sailing that isn't out yet. We just recorded it, but I totally put that menu down.
Oh, did you? Well, I like I like the entrees on the menu. I'm a little less excited about the appetizers, but the entrees there, I've had good luck with that. So we did Enchanted Garden for the first time. That one I did not like quite so well. There's some good food there. It was fun for my son to be able to try the ahi tuna tower and things like that. And that little cucumber wrap was good. I liked, but I did not like the menu in Enchanted Garden as well. I've heard some other people really do like it. So to each their own. The food quality I felt was good. Had no complaints about that. Overall, we enjoyed our evening dining. Main dining was great food, great service. And then the other night was in Royal Palace.
Before we go to Royal Palace, really quick, at Enchanted Garden, did the characters come through?
Oh, this was something I wanted to hit on. I asked my server, I'm like, what's going on? Like on the Wonder, we had characters coming in and he said, oh yeah, that was a COVID thing. We've gotten rid of it.
Yeah, like that was a good COVID thing. Oh. People loved it. Why not have the characters run through the restaurant? It takes 4 minutes, 2 minutes. Okay, I was worried about that. And in the Royal Palace Court restaurant, I bet they are not, the characters, the princesses aren't coming through there. I was worried about that. I had wondered if that cut was going to occur because
I don't know if it was unique to the Dream because they told me the princesses weren't coming because the Princess Gathering was back, but I don't think it was back pre.
How is that even related? Right? I don't know. So anyway, Disney dislike. That was a great change that you guys came out with during the pandemic, or not I guess it was still during the pandemic, but during the restart, and your cruisers loved it. Keep that, bring it back. It's not like it was that hard to do. Run some characters through a restaurant. Well, that's a shame. Okay. I'm disappointed.
I agree. I'm hopeful maybe they keep it on other ships and maybe it was just the Dream that lost it. But if you're planning on it, don't plan on it.
Yeah. I didn't have any of that on the Magic. I mean, obviously at Tangled, we had the Tangled stuff, but that show had always been there. So that's not a new thing. Well, that's disappointing. All right. To Royal Court, what were your thoughts? Royal Palace?
My 6-year-old discovered escargot on the last cruise, and he ordered his own escargot appetizer and ate it all before we knew it. So thought Steve would enjoy that. So he liked that. But yeah, food at Royal Palace was great too. So we enjoyed our dining. I would say I didn't like the pool deck food on the Dream as well as on the Magic and the Wonder. And there's a couple things. I swear the pizza crust was not as good. And I don't know if that's just a general supply chain change that they've made, but it was not as good as on the Wonder in October. And then there's no shawarma station. They do have different sandwiches and wraps, which maybe I didn't really, my son tried one. I didn't really ever. It was a 3-day cruise, didn't have a lot of time to sample all the pool deck food, but the lack of shawarma was something I noticed. Everything is back to self-service. They have a condiment bar for your burgers. It was self-service on the ice cream, which is a a mixed thing because I'm not good at making cones that don't fall over. But we did enjoy, Chris, I just listened to Chris's Walt Disney World report, and he made this comment with teenagers, and it is so true. Like, you think Disney cruise is really expensive, but when I look back at how much money we spent on food on our 2 days before we got on the ship versus it is so nice to just not have to worry. You can tell your kids, great, go eat, try something. If you don't like it, I don't have to care because there's always other food. If you're hungry and you don't want to eat when we want to eat, I don't have to care because you can always go get pizza at the pool deck. That's one of the values, even though it looks like a huge price tag. I think pretty consistently, when you add up all the food and other incidental costs that come up, the Disney Cruise Line ends up being a better value than you realize. So that's something we definitely enjoyed with the food.
Walt Disney World food is definitely a sticker shock for our family, generally, when I look at prices.
Well, and if you compare the hotels and the tickets to, theme park rides aside, right? Because you can't get a theme park ride except for one little aqua coaster on Disney cruises. But if you put the price of just tickets and just hotel together, you're almost at a Disney cruise. And then you have all of that food and entertainment, and it's all there. So that's what.
Plus, you can get to another country and see some different things and experience some different cultures and stuff like that. Let's continue with the entertainment, unless you had a point, Bryan. Sorry.
Yeah, just 2 other things on the food I wanted to hit on. Cookies was super good on this trip. We loved cookies at Castaway. A little bit different menu than I've seen. I think they were missing the spicy chicken sandwich. I remember they had a brisket thing, which that wasn't so great, but the ribs were awesome. The other stuff, we really enjoyed the food at Castaway this go around. Also, Pirate Night was back. And on a 3-night, they don't do the pirate menu, but they had the midnight buffet thing after the fireworks show, which if you've never experienced that, we had never seen that. They have the coolest fruit carvings. We had late dining, so we were not really hungry at all. But walking through that buffet line and seeing where they carved the melons and the fruit carvings was just really, really cool. And the food on the buffet looked really good. I tried 1 or 2 little things, but my teenager had plenty of room to eat food, but I did not. But it was worth walking through and seeing. Plus, we had to walk through cabanas to get to our room anyways.
Of course. Those carvings I have 2 questions about Pirate Night. But first is a comment. The carvings in the fruit is how it used to be in the olden days in cruising, Steve. I don't know if you remember, like if you cruised back in the day, but where they did a whole buffet and like a midnight buffet or even a big brunch or whatever, and they would carve into all of the fruit. It was and make big buffet tables, not just Disney, like every cruise line. That's gone now. But I'm glad Disney brought it back for Pirate Night. So I don't remember from my recent Magic sailing, which was my first, that Pirate Night had returned in its full Pirate Night-ness. Did they talk about the buffet and cabanas? Like, was it in the app? Did you see it anywhere discussed?
I don't think, maybe our server mentioned, I know somebody had mentioned it on the sailing right before us. It was doing a back-to-back on our Facebook group, but I don't remember seeing it in the Navigator app. I think it was just something you heard about word of mouth. But if you want me to stay on Pirate Night, though, I will add, they did all the pirate activities like prior in the day. They don't have the makeover at Bippity Boppity Boutique right now. Still, they did highlight that somewhere that they weren't bringing that back yet. But they have the normal kind of game shows and things like that. And then they did the Mickey and Friends show like early, where they have the Mickey and the Pirate show. I didn't watch that because that was when we were doing the Aqueduct, but my family was watching it, and we kind of watched it when we rode the Aqueduct, but we were more busy riding that over and over again. But they did that. And then they had the evening show with the fireworks. And I think that show is different on the Dream and Fantasy than it is on the Magic and the Wonder. I didn't experience on the Wonder, but I remember it from our first Magic sailing. And I think the stage show is a little bit different. Maybe I'm wrong, but I don't remember it being a big sing-along. Whereas for this, it was a big sing-along. Like they were having the words up on the funnel vision and having everybody sing pirate songs. And I didn't remember that from the past, but it was really fun. I actually quite enjoyed the pirate show this go around. Whereas on our first cruise, I don't remember thinking it was that cool. So that was a good thing. Fireworks were really good. I felt like they lasted longer than the fireworks we had on our Wonder Cruise. And so, yeah, Pirate Night was back and it was a lot of fun and I really enjoyed it. I know some people liked that they were mixing things up and I can see that, but the quality of Pirate Night I felt really good.
That's great. I know it's a fan favorite as well. And we kind of missed this too. Sail away party. They had the sail away party for you guys too. How was that?
They had the sail away party. We went up. That was actually kind of fun. We went up because they do interrupt things to go sound the emergency signal and do the safety briefing. It's not the same as the full old muster drill, but we were up getting our spot to watch the sail away party when that happened. So we were all up on deck. They did the signal, they played the video on funnel vision on the safety briefing, and then it moved right into the sail away party, which I thought was really fun. Sail away party, I mean, it's not like the Marvel deck party, which is the pinnacle of Disney deck parties, but it was fun to be there and have them do the sail away. And I think we actually sailed away during the sail away, which doesn't always happen, or it was right after, but it was really fun to have that excitement, that energy to kick off the cruise. So that was kind of fun that was back. Definitely. And in Port Canaveral, I think they need it because the sail away is just not as exciting. Like when you're sailing away in San Diego or Miami, I feel like you could enjoy a sail away from your veranda. But in Port Canaveral, I like the energy of going up on deck and having a party atmosphere.
Yeah, I totally agree. We love the atmosphere of that. And then as you kind of take it in the ocean as you leave whatever port it is. But a good point on that as far as Port Canaveral, you go by fish lips and that's just about it. Some random people out there on the jetty waving as you leave. Before we get to Castaway, you mentioned that you guys just stayed on the ship for NASA. Anything else that you want to discuss or that we've missed about the time on the ship that you guys spent, Bryan?
I don't think so. I did spend a lot of time on my NASA day skulking the pool deck, waiting to see when the aqua deck was going to open. That ended up being a huge time suck for me, but it did lead me to do some interesting things like just lay on a lounger on the pool deck, which I'm not normally apt to do. And there's some pretty beautiful scenery when you're docked in Nassau. You can and they have loungers that were facing out. So you could just lay on the deck and look out over the Nassau island, the side of the harbor that there wasn't another ship on, which was really cool to see that. Enjoyed that. One other thing, like they removed the restriction on fish extenders, like right before this cruise. And so we did some pixie dusting. We like the whole fish extender thing and people were able to hang those. And so I did spend some time delivering gifts and pixie dusting. That was kind of fun to have that back. That's a unique thing to Disney Cruise Line. And so maybe you'll need to do a one-on-one episode on that at some point now that's back. But we enjoyed that. That was a fun little thing that we did as well.
Yeah, we've got a mini-sode planned for that. So maybe we need to bring you on with Christy and Chris are going to do a mini-sode on fish extenders. So
happy to.
We should have you on there to give some ideas of things that you guys have done. Well, let's get to Castaway. You guys have been to Castaway before. What was your guys' plan for this time and how did that day kind of go?
Yeah, I definitely wanted to run the Castaway K 5K because that is what got me into running. And now, we've talked a little bit, but I've done a whole bunch of half marathons now, including Walt Disney World half. And it all started doing Couch to 5K for Castaway Key on our first sailing. And so I was super pumped to get out and run that again. I did set a new PR for that race because I had timed it before. For those who don't know, it's not really, right now it's a run as your own event. It's not a timed event. And it wasn't even chip timed back when it was more organized, but they have the course marked. You can go, you can run it and you can get back and they can tell that you've been running and hand you a medal. It is hot and humid in that Bohemian heat. I had a water bottle that I carried with me. I have a running water bottle and they had water stations you could fill up and get water, but it's definitely not a run. Like I can do 3 miles at home all day long without water. Don't try it on Castaway. It's hot and humid, but it was really fun. So we got off the ship. My family said they were going to run it, and then they decided morning of they didn't really want to. So they went and sat and carved a spot. I went and ran it and came back. And then we had that secret spot that we like. I think it was talked about on a recent show there, right there on the edge of the family beach, right near the snorkeling zone before you get not far from Pelican Point. Like that's where we like to camp out. So it was great. The ship was not super full. I think we were 2,400-ish people or so. And so the beach didn't feel full, found a great spot. We brought our own snorkel gear to go snorkel. We were a little disappointed this time. There was not as much sea life out there. Last time we saw a lot more fish and my wife actually saw a sea turtle. This time it was mainly the stuff that Disney has buried out in the lagoon, which is kind of fun, but it is a long swim. And so involves a fair amount of swimming, but we did that. We had fun there, but just hanging out in the water, it felt cold when you got in. I'm a little spoiled now that we spent all that time in Costa Rica. I expect water to be warm like it is there. It wasn't quite that, but once you got in, you got used to it. And we had just a really fun day at Castaway. I mentioned the food was good, but for us, it was just playing in the beach. I went down the Pelican Point a couple times. We like the shopping. We did buy more stuff than we should have on Castaway because last time we were like, oh, we'll book another cruise and be back. And then how long did it take us to get back to Castaway because of some things? So if we saw something we really wanted, we went ahead and got it. Yes, Castaway is just magical and fun and beautiful.
So one question about the snorkeling. When you rent snorkeling gear with Disney Cruise Line, they give you a life vest that you wear. Did you have to wear a life vest when you went out there?
You are required to have a snorkel vest, and you can go up to the place where you rent the snorkel gear, and they will give you a snorkel vest for free. They will also let you have an actual like full-on life vest. So like my girls wore full-on life vests. My wife and I just went and got a snorkel vests because we can swim well. But it is free to borrow a snorkel vest. It is required. You'll sit and watch the cast members yell, not in a mean way, but they have to talk loud to get a hold of people who have gone out in the snorkel lagoon without a life vest. You also can't take your floaty things over in the snorkeling area. Like they want those separated. So be aware of those rules. It did feel to me like they had changed the snorkel area a little bit. Like they have roped off, and it felt like it was roped off a little bit different way than I remember last time. And I don't know why, but I don't know if that had anything to do with us seeing less fish than we have seen in the past, but still fun. Still enjoyed it. We didn't shut down. Last time we were on one of the last people off Castaway. This time we did go back a little bit earlier so that we could let my kids who hadn't rode the aqueduct yet, who didn't get on that little gap we had the day before. And we had to wait in like an hour line. So that wasn't quite as fun, but everyone got to ride the aqueduct. So that was good.
I like it at night anyways. So I think you guys did it perfect, especially being able to watch the pirate show as you guys are going round and round and round on it without the lines. Well, before we finish up and get you off the ship, Bryan, let's talk a little bit about the differences. What were your overall thoughts about the differences between the Magic class and the Dream class ships? Any tips that you would give first time cruisers going on the Dream versus the Classic, or just any thoughts in general between the two classes of ships, pluses or minuses?
Yeah, so I am in the Classic ship camp. Having done both, I like the Classic better. One of the big differences for me is I felt like the Classic are easier to navigate. And some of that is that and it's not just the distances involved, it's that there's weird things like I have to walk through cabanas to get to the aft stairwell. There are places where you can't get off on the stairwell or you can't get from here to there. It just felt harder to navigate than the Classic ships, whereas the Classic ships, you can pretty much get from anywhere to anywhere. And it's a little bit more consistent how you get in and out of the stairwells on the upper decks. Like one thing that came up is if you're over on the ice cream side on the pool deck and you want to go over to where Flo's Cafe is, it's a real pain to do that unless you cut through the adult area. And my kids, I was like, "Hell, just cut through the adult area with me." And they were like,
you could walk through. I mean, it's still annoying, but you can walk through that corridor with the doors where the elevator shaft is.
To get between those, because when I was at the ice cream thing, the only way was either up around in front of Funnel Vision and down or through. I didn't think there was a corridor right there.
Yeah, there's the elevator. The midship elevators are located right there. So okay. There's like a tiny little store there too for like pool items. And it is a little irritating because it's freezing because the air conditioning is really heavily going and the doors, it's not a big area. So sometimes you're waiting for people to come in and out, but yes, there's a walkway there. Okay. There's an indoor walkway.
Kind of makes my point. It's a little harder to navigate.
Sure.
So that's not a reason not to go on them by any means, but that was one thing I noticed. I did like the pool deck food because I like the shawarma station on the Magic and the Wonder, but the mini golf and the midship detective agencies are huge pluses to the bigger ships because you've got some additional entertainment options. I'll answer your question, Steve. I like the Aquadunk better than the Aqueduct, but I really do like the Aqueduct. The reason I like the Aquadunk better is that the lines were shorter, and when the lines were there, it's a little simpler, less likely to break down. It is a really extreme thrill right up front, and I think it's a little bit better themed because they have the countdown audio. Whereas when you go on the Aqueduct, there's a little bit of a sign there, a little storyline, but then there's not a lot of theming. I think the Aqueduct is slightly better themed on the Magic, but Aqueduct is still a lot of fun on the Dream and Fantasy. So at the end of the day, you can't go wrong on either. The rooms are also different. The Magic and the Wonder have USB ports all over the place because they've been remodeled more recently. And I felt like the storage was different on the Magic and the Wonder. And I noticed that difference with the Dream. It wasn't a big deal, but there are like the plugs was annoying. I was like, where's the USB port that I know is over here on the last ship I was on? I was like, oh, it's not on the Dream. So those were some of the differences that I noticed. But at the end of the day, you can't go wrong with either. And I think it's worth experiencing all of them.
Good points there. Any thoughts on because you just got off the Magic, Chrissy? I think you touched on that as far as on your show, but any thoughts as far as the differences in the rooms?
I will say on the Magic, I don't know if I talked about this, that they have the like grab bar in the shower in the worst location. If you are a 5'2" female, because my arm just hits it I did not find that shower to be pleasant.
There you go. Watch out for the grab bar and the Magic. It might come out and whack you.
It's just in the very wrong spot. It's like the very middle of that kind of narrow, long tub to begin with.
Yeah.
So I do like the round, larger area shower without the shower curtain that is attacking you. That is on the dream and the fantasy. I prefer that.
No, those are all good points. Those are the little annoying things sometimes that you're like, who didn't think about this when they built it this way?
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, sounds like just an amazing cruise, quick cruise. Those 3-day cruises go by so fast, yeah, but still a lot of fun for you guys. Any problems in disembarkation at all?
Nope. The only issue that I have had is we did buy the unlimited digital photo package, which we love to have. We got some really cool photos this cruise. They've changed that. You don't get a USB drive at the end. You can download them on board, connect to the ship's Wi-Fi, and you're supposed to be able to download them after the fact. We have a glitch where I still can't download them after the fact, which I am working with Disney Cruise Line on. So that's my only issue. I'm a little nervous it had something to do with our linked staterooms. I did try and talk to them beforehand when I was asking for the thumb drive and showed them, it doesn't look like it'll let me download. And maybe I should have pushed a little harder. They said, it'll work once you're off the ship, but it didn't. So that's my only glitch. I'm working through it. We'll figure it out.
And maybe what I would maybe tell people, you had one other problem, which we'll talk about in a second, but maybe what I would tell people is if you're doing the photo package or you're buying a handful or however many pictures, just take the time. It is irritating, but take the time and have them download it to your phone while you're there, because they can do that and they can walk you through it, because that is what I did the last cruise that I purchased photos from. And I am very glad I did, because my friend also had problems downloading the pictures. Her problems ended earlier than yours did, Bryan, because yours aren't over. But maybe we just need to do that. I don't know why they're getting rid of that thumb drive. Really? I mean, is it that hard to give it out if people are requesting it? And then the other little problem that Bryan had is that there was a charge on his credit card at the end of his cruise for $30. And he emailed Disney Cruise Line and they said, oh, the curling iron pouch, whatever they call it, mat, was missing from your cabin. And obviously they're like, well, we didn't take that. And who would take that? And why is it $30? But anyway, they didn't send him anything to say that he was charged that $30. They just charged his credit card. I have a problem with that. So I would advise people to look at your credit card before, and he got it reversed, but look at your credit card statement as you're coming off these cruises. And once the cruise is over, and email or contact Disney Cruise Line if you notice anything that's not right. And as a reminder, you need to take a picture and or download, which I don't know how you download a PDF to your cell phone. Maybe you guys can teach me, but
I did it. It's okay. Yeah, it is tricky if you don't know how, but you can download your folio inside the app before you disembark, which I had done, which is why I was confused on the $30 charge, because it wasn't listed there. But
yeah, mine would have let me email it to myself, but then, internet access, right? Like you have to log in and do all the things. So I just took screenshots of it before my last cruise. But they don't tell you anywhere that you're not going to receive a copy of this invoice, but you don't receive a copy of the invoice after the cruise any longer. They don't put it by your door. They don't email it to you. Apparently, all those things are too hard for Disney now. So make sure you get your invoice so you know what you're being charged for. And Bryan, do you want to tell us really quick how we download if we have an iPhone?
If it's in the app, there's an option to download it, and then you can save it to, there's a little option down there where you can save it to an app on your phone, or you can save it to files on your phone, which for me, I use the iCloud storage. So the files on my phone syncs to the files folder on my laptop, and it's just really easy. I just download the files. But
okay, so maybe for us that aren't using the cloud, or I don't have a PDF opening device as far as I could tell on my cell phone that would have worked for that.
If you're on an iOS,
it wouldn't let me save it anywhere. So files though, I'm going to try this next time, guys. So everybody else, it's not intuitive. I can tell you that much. So we could try saving it to files. Okay. Good lesson.
Sorry, I don't remember exactly. I would give a better explanation, but it's something I do often enough, saving things to my phone, that I knew how to do it. But if you don't, it is Yeah, I can
And
see
I would
that.
have made my husband do it because this is his department, but he wasn't on the cruise with me. So I had to carry my own bags and I had to figure out how to save that PDF myself.
You got a cruise, Christy, which is
I
better
know.
than not having a cruise.
And I didn't have to be at home cleaning anything. So that was better too, even though I had to lug my own stuff.
First world problems, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So, well, Bryan, I'm glad you and your family had just another amazing trip with Disney Cruise Line. And I know that probably you've got something planned for the future. What's next for you and your family?
Yep, we've got a cruise we booked a while back for fall break in October on the Fantasy. So we will have completed the classic Grand Slam and been on all the ships in order they were built, except for the Wish. We did get a placeholder on this one, and we are working out what we're going to do on that. Yeah, so we will be setting sail on the Fantasy in October. Super excited for that.
Which Eastern, Western?
So Western Caribbean, all ports we haven't been to before. That's one of the things I was really looking to do a summer 2023 release because we had the placeholder and they delayed the release and we could have done it. And there's really epic itineraries, but they are really expensive. And for our family, traveling the summer is a little tricky. One of the things I realized is there are so many itineraries. I know people get bored of the Western and the Eastern, but we haven't done enough of them yet, partially because of the pandemic and partially just the way things worked out. There's a lot of these more basic cruises that are often you can find a little bit better deal that we haven't explored those ports enough to be bored of them. So we're excited to do Western Caribbean. Yeah, we get to go to Jamaica and Grand Cayman and Cozumel, all new ports for us. So
Awesome. We've got a Western one booked right after you in December on the Fantasy. Cool. So I'll have to stay in touch as far as what you guys have planned for those ports, because we haven't been to most of them as well. So looking forward to that. Well, Bryan, thank you so much for all you do for our show. Appreciate the support. Appreciate all the time that you've taken to come back on and share your and your family's experiences on this cruise and all the other cruises as well. And on behalf of myself and Chris, who's not here today, I want to thank you once again for all you do and coming on and doing this.
Well, thank you for the podcast. It is fun to hear everybody's experiences when we're between cruises, and we all, I think, learn and have a really fun community here. So thank you.
No problem. Christy, any final thoughts?
I just want to say one little final thought. Bryan is in our Patreon community, and not that we need, we're not forcing people to be Patreons, and we still love talking Disney Cruise Line with you if you're not a Patreon, but our Patreon group is so much fun. If it was something you're considering, we have a Facebook group where people just share whatever they've booked next, excursions they're planning to book. It's just like, it's a great little group of Disney enthusiasts, Disney Cruise Line enthusiasts, and it helps us get to know each other a little bit more. And so if you were something you were thinking of, maybe, reach out. We'll tell you more about it if you want, but consider our Patreon program. And then I also just want to thank Bryan, because not only is he a Patreon, he does use my service. And that it's very kind. So thank you very much, Bryan.
You're welcome. And I will second, the Patreon group is a lot of fun and it's not super expensive. So, one trip to Starbucks a month, I think, and you can join the Patreon group.
Like at the top level.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a fun group.
Yeah, I appreciate the positivity. There's no negativity in it whatsoever. And I appreciate everybody being supportive of each other in it. If you want to find out more, you go to patreon.com/DCL podcast and find out all the information there. Well, I guess, again, as we wrap up, Bryan, thank you again so much for coming on and sharing experiences. And we look forward to following along with your guys' next adventures when you set sail on the Disney Fantasy.
Sounds great.
All right. Have a great day, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye. Well, that's going to wrap up our show today. Once again, I really want to thank Bryan for coming on and sharing his and his family's experiences as they sailed on that 3-day sailing aboard the Disney Dream out of Port Canaveral. And we want to wish them all the best. They'll be sailing here soon in the fall and completing their Grand Slam of the older ships on the Disney Fantasy as well. Well, if you've enjoyed this show and you know others who would enjoy it as well, we sure would appreciate it if you pass it on. That helps the word get out in the Disney cruising, the Disney podcasting, and just the cruising podcasting community. It helps others find our show. And if you have time to go over to iTunes and leave us a review, we sure would appreciate it. Once again, that helps our podcast get a little bit better known in the cruising and the Disney cruising community, and helps us grow our show. We do appreciate each and every one of you who've done that. If you'd like to find out more about our Patreon program, you go to patreon.com/DCL podcast and find out all the information there. We want to thank our Patreons as they help bring the show to you each and every week ad-free. Once again, dclpodcast.com/Patreon. Thank you, each and every one of you who've supported our show over these years. Well, between now and our next show, if you're heading out on a Disney cruise, heading down to the parks, heading out on Adventures by Disney, or just enjoying the last couple of weeks of summer, on behalf of myself, Steve, Christy, and Chris, all of us here at the DCL Podcast, we want to wish you to be well, enjoy time with family and friends, and we'll see you next time on the DCL Podcast.
The DCL podcast is not affiliated with the Disney Cruise Line, Walt Disney Company, Adventures by Disney, or Run Disney. All of the opinions expressed on our shows are those of the hosts and the guests who appear on the show. If you have any questions about any of these products, please contact the Walt Disney Company.